Good morning. I'm Althea Phillips and I'm delighted and privileged to be able to sit down with His Grace, Archbishop Elias Frank, and ask him a few questions. Your Grace, in your pastoral letter, you mentioned that you are a true Bangla Premi and opted to be ordained priest at Our Lady of Happy Voyage, Howrah in '93 because you desired to be ordained within the Archdiocese, where you could have easily chosen your native place. Then you were sent to Asansol in 1997, following which you became the Bishop of Asansol in 2003, and now some 3 decades later, return as Archbishop of Calcutta. Do you feel this is a homecoming of sorts?
It's a complex question. Let's start with the first point that you mentioned about why I chose to be ordained in the Archdiocese. It goes back to my vocation story. See, I had no desire to be a priest in the first place. After my studies, after my class 10, I was in a different world altogether. I had no desire to be a priest until one day, if you read in the Acts of the Apostles, St. Paul's call, I had something of that experience, a tremendous light within me, which transformed my life. And I heard a voice saying within me, "Go far away." It was just that voice that changed everything. And I started, glancing the weekly of the diocese, and I found one address. The only thing that mattered for me was the last line, West Bengal. The rest was irrelevant. And I wrote to that particular address. And that's how I landed up in Bengal. It wasn't Calcutta Archdiocese, but I was led all the way to the Archdiocese. And after that, there was no looking back. It was simply going forward. And I chose to be ordained in the Archdiocese. I chose Howrah because I was doing ministry there as deacon. But it was clear for me, I'm ordained for this Archdiocese and not for my people at home. So I said, I will not be ordained there, even if my parents were not so young. But I told them, if you want to come, you're most welcome. If you can't come, it doesn't matter. I am a priest for this Archdiocese and I'll be ordained here. So it was a hard choice for them, but for me, it was the right thing to do. And then, in my ministry, I also fell in love with the Santal community. So, see, both things, the Archdiocese and the Santal community. So, before my priestly ordination as a deacon, I had requested Archbishop Henry then that I would love to work with the Santals. And that's how my first appointment was Burdwan. It was still part of the Archdiocese. Asansol was not a diocese then. 93, Asansol became a diocese in 98, which means we were still part of Calcutta Archdiocese. And that was my first appointment. And therefore it's difficult for me to say it's homecoming, because Asansol was like a daughter of the Archdiocese. So in a way, I was part of the Archdiocese, but again, rooted in that diocese because my first appointment was there. I spent all my priestly years over there. So it was not so much of, I can't say it's homecoming or I ever left the Archdiocese. It's a little difficult to say that because I'm attached to both.
So what did you feel when you were first informed that you would be the 10th Archbishop of Calcutta? As Bishop of Asansol, though a short time, you were strongly connected to the diocese, bringing in a lot of positive transformation. Were there any feelings perhaps of leaving some vision or plans unfulfilled?
You see, it was a shock for me. Honestly, being appointed to the Archdiocese was a shock. I didn't expect. And honestly, I did not even want it. And when I was informed, the nuncio called me. He phoned me up and said, "There's a good news for you." I said, "What is it?" He said, "The Pope is appointing you as a coadjutor Archbishop of Calcutta." And I asked him, "Is that a good news?" Because I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to come to Calcutta because it's much larger diocese. It requires a lot of efforts, lot of work. But I was just getting settled in Asansol. Just getting settled.
Barely 2 years you were there.
Yeah. And honestly, I didn't want to leave Asansol at that juncture. But again, I'm not somebody who chooses where I should be sent. I never chose as a priest. I never asked for a place, this or that. In fact, when I was a young priest, soon after the Diocese of Calcutta, Asansol was created, I'd just come back from my studies in Rome. The Vicar General asked me, he wrote to me saying that I would be going to a particular parish. And I wrote back to him saying, "Please, henceforth, never ask me where I wish to go. Send me wherever you want, I will go." For me it was clear, as a priest, it's obedience that matters. As a priest, I have made, at the time of my diaconate ordination, I have taken the promise of obedience to the bishop. So there's no question of preference. My preference is what my superior wants. That's my preference. And I lived up to that always. So even when I was told about this appointment to the Archdiocese, it was the same thing. I said, I don't choose, although I wasn't that happy, but if the Holy Father wants, I am at his service.
Compared to Asansol, Calcutta is a huge and diverse archdiocese with as many as 55 parishes. How are you going to rise to the challenge of dealing with so many parishes, and what will be your administrative style? Are there any guiding principles that maybe you will be employing in terms of how you will direct, serve and cooperate with the faithful, the clergy and the religious in the Archdiocese of Calcutta?
Yeah, I started this with my pastoral letter. The pastoral letter already gives the indications as to how I'm going to move forward. See, my priority now is to know the priests. See, I left the Archdiocese 27 years ago, and I know the senior priests, but I'm yet to know the junior priests. And the first thing for me is to know the priests. And I'm not going to call them to Archbishop's house. I'm going to go to their places, maybe stay overnight, and have dialogue to understand where they are from, their background, their family condition. All that helps me to know them. And they must know me also. What I am, how I prefer, to interact, and so it's more of a sharing. I need to know what they think, their vision for the Archdiocese, and then I share my vision for the Archdiocese. So it's more of understanding. So it's not that I have already planned. I have no plans as of now.
Work in progress.
It's work in progress, but if anyone has a program, it is one who is there in the chapel, the tabernacle. He's the one who has the program. I sit before him and ask him. So he's the real Archbishop.
He answers.
I'm only his servant. So I go with what enlightenment he gives me. As I told you, the voice that I heard first, that was not the only time I heard the voice. There were other times I have heard the voice within me. which has led me. And if I'm here today, it's simply because I always feel it's the Lord who has led me, and He will continue leading me. But it's my duty to be faithful to Him. My duty to be faithful to Him. So as long as I'm faithful to Him, I have nothing to fear. And I don't need to make big programs, plannings. I think I have to leave that to Him. And as time goes on, He will guide me. With the help, of course, with all others. We have so many commissions. We have the College of Consultants, the Finance Committee. They're all collaborative bodies with their help naturally. It's not one-man show. It is, it's working together.
Team effort.
It's a team effort. Yeah.
The past week has seen you visiting the primarily rural deanery of Midnapur, successfully meeting priests, people and other institutions. 24 Parganas is the other deanery which you are going to go to. Do you plan to do the same in the deaneries of Kolkata, Howrah, Hooghly, which are mainly urban? And what will be your prime focus as the Archbishop? Yeah.
Yeah, my going to Midnapur, there were two reasons. I was in Bulgaria as a seminarian, and that's where my love for the Santals starts. And therefore it was a long desire. For many years I wanted to go back there. I never got an opportunity. I was in Rome for so many years. I came for holidays for a short while, and there was no way I could visit that place. I really wanted to visit. That was one reason. But there was another reason, which is actually the main reason for me, was the announcement of the resignation of the Archbishop, and then I would be the Archbishop. In all these years in the past, I'm sure it has taken place here. I wanted people to understand that the Archbishop is not only for the city. The Archdiocese is a large diocese. Even the parishes in the peripheries, they are important. And if you remember Pope Francis, he says the peripheries are to be the centers. And I wanted one of those peripheral parishes to be the place of announcement. So that's why I intentionally chose to have the announcement done in Kamarchoki, which is a rural parish. And a meeting was called. Of course, naturally, there was no way I could tell them the reason why the meeting was called. We gave some reasons and people were there. Someone said, "What on earth, you kept a meeting at 3 p.m.? because there are priests who rest at that time. So it was a big surprise. No one knew why there was meeting at 3 p.m. But then I asked the dean of Midnapur Deanery. I had given him a sealed letter with the time written on it. You are going to read this letter at 3:30 p.m. You will open this letter and read it. So even he didn't know. So it was a big surprise for them. And it's maybe the first time in history of the Archdiocese the announcement is made in a rural parish. That was the first thing. And the first Eucharist that I celebrated as the Archbishop was Bulgaria, one of the most remote parishes of our Archdiocese. So I chose actually my ministry there as Archbishop. So it's also to tell you that every place in the Archdiocese is important. It's not that historical parishes or parishes which are materially rich or educated people. No, every parish, whether are faithful, is important. And the Archbishop is Archbishop of everyone. So that's the reason why I chose to go there. So it was not just to visit, but I had a plan. It's a message that I wanted to communicate by doing that. And I think the message has been clear.
We don't get to see packed churches nowadays except during Christmas, Good Friday and Easter. Any ideas why this is happening? And have you any plan to get the flock back to church and make our churches more alive and vibrant?
You know, Althea, there are many reasons. Once there were large families. Today, nuclear families. So naturally, there will be less people. Then you have city Catholics have migrated to the peripheries. So naturally, you won't have packed churches in the heart of the city because people are not there. So it is not necessarily because they are not coming to church. It's simply people are not there.
They're not there.
So there is there's a fall in numbers just because there are no births. So how do we solve that issue? That's not possible to solve. So, and therefore, what can be done is where people are, there we need to focus on. One of the ideas is basic ecclesial communities or small Christian communities. I find that's an excellent way to bring the word of God to everyone. And the action plan of these base units, that is where the word of God is spread, is proclaimed. So I believe the way forward is the small Christian communities.
Okay.
Yeah.
The younger crowd is slowly drifting away with leadership groups like the YCS gone, pressures of modern life and nothing meaningful to keep them engaged. Can the youth once again take up challenging leadership roles in the Archdiocese? How would you encourage this?
Well, again, there's not one group anymore. Now there is Jesus Youth, which is coming out very prominent. Now any group survives if you have a mission. If there's no mission, if it is only coming together maybe to have some fun, you cannot have fun all the time.
Yes, it breaks up.
It has to die. So any group that is not living up to its mission has to die. It's not, I don't find meaning in trying to revive a dead animal or dying animal, but rather I would go for those groups that are active, support them. Within the church, it doesn't matter this group or that group. If all are working for the common purpose, which is the gospel, as long as we work for the Lord, it doesn't matter which group. I'm not in favor of this group or that group. I'm not in favor of this association or that association. The mission that matters for me. If you're working for the mission, if you're working for the gospel, that's all I look for. Now, when I say gospel, it means a lot of things. It means also taking care of the poor, the missionaries of charity, the little sisters of the poor. It's all work of the gospel. And therefore, for me, it's irrelevant which group, which association. What matters is what you're doing. Are you living up to the mission? Then it's good. We'll encourage that. Not living up to the mission, you're bound to die. There's no way investing on that, because this has to come from within. If you have the fire within you, that fire will become a blaze. But if there's no fire within you, there's no way, you're not going to fan that fire, because it will work as long as you keep on fanning, otherwise it dies out. So it's no use. I personally don't think I'm going to do much on that, but I'm going to find out which are the groups which are active and support them.
The church has become more institution-oriented rather than people-oriented in the eyes of many Catholics. One example is our schools, who tend to favor academic excellence even at the cost of edging out our own people who cannot meet those standards. So how to solve this problem?
I think this is a question, a generic question, quite generalized question, because these are general allegations. You may be right, but we need to have data. unless we have data of every school, which I don't have. I need to have data of every school, how many children are paying full fees, how many are on concession, how many are free. Unless we have a data, it's no use just speaking on what people say. So I don't think I need to comment on that, because I know even the Loreto sisters, where lots of people say it's for the rich, but they're also doing a lot of work, lot of mission work, lot of charity work. Only that no publicity is made for that. But I think the Lord doesn't want us to make publicity, because He Himself says, what your right hand does, your left hand
work silently.
Yeah, so therefore, what's the point in making a lot of publicity? So I think what is important is the Lord knows about it, not whether the public is aware of it or not. That is irrelevant. I always believe our example, life example, what matters, even in the institutions, a life example. And that's where I personally, I believe, to live a simple life, as simple as possible. And therefore, I already told you about titles, which I don't use titles, because I believe people should not see the Archbishop's office as an office of power, position. It is not. It's an office of service. I'm here only to serve. And therefore, I don't want to comment on schools, because unless I have a data of all the schools, only then I will say, I have definitely clear ideas on this. Our schools must cater for the poor. This is categorical. It doesn't mean you have to have completely poor children, then how will you pay the teachers? If all are on concession, how will you pay the teachers?
Not practical.
It's not practical. We need to be practical, but I believe if you have 30 children who are paying the full amount, 10 children can be either free or on concession. So I will work on that. And this is what I also did in Asansol. I said, I want to see in every school concessions for poor children and free possible. And I don't want our schools to be commercial institutions. I want them to be gospel oriented. You don't preach Christ in words, but let our actions speak. And that's what I want our schools to do. On that, I'm very, very strong. Okay.
Archbishop Emeritus Thomas D'Souza has been involved in a lot of interfaith activities to create an atmosphere of brotherhood and goodwill, something considered very important in these times of communal division. Will you also continue to build strong bridges with others?
Well, this is what the church wants us to do. So it's not that whether I will continue or not, it's the church wants us to do it, and I definitely have to continue, because that is something good. And it also builds a society where there is, communion, and also sets an example for the others that we can live in peace if we want. So definitely I will continue.
Your episcopal motto is to serve and not to be served. How will this translate into your relationship with the people as shepherd of the Archdiocese?
In the first place, it's my way of doing things. That me as an Archbishop, I'm there to serve. I'm not there to seek places of honor. I'm not there to seek people should come to me. No, I will be going out. But naturally, I need to program my visits, my work. True, as a servant, as a servant, everybody will say, okay, I'm wanted there, I'm wanted here. It would be impossible. It would be impossible to satisfy everyone. So I don't mean, when I say servant, I literally mean having Jesus as our example, who washed the feet of his apostles and said, if you want to be my disciples, don't seek first positions, don't seek prominence, but be one with the others. Be a commoner. That is what I mean to say by being not to be served, but to serve. And naturally, always having Christ as my model. Always Christ as the model and no one else. And naturally, for that matter, for which I need to constantly understand what Jesus wants of me, how I need to go about, and how I relate with others. I don't want anyone to come to Archbishop's house and go sad, or I'm not somebody who shouts at people or raises the voices. I don't do that. My way is not to raise a voice or shout at somebody. I try to reason as much as possible. And if it's not possible, I just give up. Because you can reason with people only as far as they are able to understand. If they're not able to understand, you just give up. Then usually I go to the chapel and say, Lord, you take it over because I'm not able to.
Tell us something about your early life in Mangalore. Before you became a priest, how it was life there?
Yeah.
What did you do?
You see, I was like anyone else, naughty. Like all the children of that age, we had, I was good in, I loved playing sports. We used to play kabaddi, cricket. This was like anyone else. And I remember when I was in class 7, our catechism teacher asked us, how many of you would like to be priests? I was one of those who raised my hands.
Class 7.
Class 7. But not for what priesthood is, because I didn't know what was priesthood then. I only loved priest cassette. That was the whole idea I had of priesthood. I loved this, stiff collar, and that's why I wanted to be a priest at that time in class 7. Once I reached high school, things changed. Class 8, class 9. Then, you come to know also the other side, girls. And you start, being friendly with girls and all that. So I lost all desire to be a priest. I had no desire. Forget about losing. I had no desire. And I still remember, I must have attended one vocation camp, where priests come and, I used to get some letters, never opened them. I put them straight into the fire. That was me. I had no desire to be a priest. And this is why I told you about my call. It's so important because that is what I was. I was only running after girls, honestly, at that age. It's important to understand my call only in contrast to what I was. Then you understand what a decision that was when I said that experience I had. It's completely 180-degree turnover. What I was and what I became overnight. And I never looked back after that. Never had any thought of leaving or unhappy. There were times I was alone, but never lonely. I never felt lonely.
No regrets also.
No regrets whatsoever. And because I knew I had to follow the call. Now to connect with my experience as a young priest in Midnapur, my second appointment as priest was Basinda in Midnapur district. I used to look after two mission stations, Basinda and Namasol. And on Sundays, I would go to Namasol first for Mass and come back to Basinda, 24 kilometers apart. And then that area was dangerous. I still remember it was the month of August. The gospel that day was Good Samaritan. I was coming back from Namasol to Basinda. There were 6 men came on the road, one with the arrow, one with wood axe, one with chopper, each one with something. And a catechist was with me. He must have had some experience. I had no experience of that before. And he said, he told me in Santali, "Hape, Father, hape, stop, stop, stop." And I stopped. And that was my first experience with the Lotha community. I was robbed. First thing, they took away my watch. It was a 30 rupees watch. There was nothing valued in it. I bought that on the footpath in Calcutta. But the experience of going through, they were trying to break open my motorcycle box where I used to repair my motorcycle myself. I do a lot of mechanical work I used to do myself, removing the tires, repairing the puncture. So I had all the instruments. I had the pump for inflating the tube, screwdrivers to open the tire. I lost all of them. And the worst part was, I had my new chappals. They just pulled out under my feet. I didn't even raise my feet, just pulled out. That was my first experience. And it wasn't tragic for me. I went through that. I saw the man with the arrow pulling the arrow. I had to stop because he was ready to shoot. And as I reached Basinda for the Eucharist, because I had to go because people were waiting for me, I said, today I understand the parable of the Good Samaritan really well, because I am also one of those victims. But except that I wasn't beaten. The worst part, I mean, the second incident was really, even today for me, something that marked my life. 3 weeks later, same road, not the same jungle, one more jungle. I was alone. And I saw a head popping out of a bush. Then I knew they were there, and I was alone. I couldn't go because I knew they were there. I didn't want to go back because that was the jungle I was attacked previously. I had to go because people were waiting for Mass. So I waited. I waited for about 15 to 20 minutes for some cover. Then 2 trucks were coming. I followed the first truck. And when the first truck reached where they were, they had cut a tree. And they just pushed it across the road. To stop. And the road wasn't wide. There was no way I could overtake the truck. And then on one side you have the tree trunk, the base, which is thicker. The other side you have the branches. There was no way I could overtake. The truck somehow applied the brakes, but then somehow managed to go over. I didn't know what to do. I saw someone coming and throwing a stone at me. I just ducked. They missed me. I mean, I didn't get the stone. I heard their voice again, "Go." Just that voice. I went over the tree trunk. Even to this day, I have no idea how I went over the tree. For me, even to this day, that's a miracle, because I have fallen off the motorcycle so many times, but not that day. And going over the tree trunk, I have no idea to this day how I went over. Just that voice, "Go," and I went. Crossed the jungle, the first truck stopped, I stopped, and the real one comes and says, in Bangla, says, "Apnar bhagyo khub bhalo. You are very lucky." I said, "Why?" "Tir mere chilo, they shot at you, they missed." That's the time I really started trembling, literally, because that would have been death for sure.
Real close shave.
Because they hunt birds with arrows. Imagine they missed me from a close range. That's why I said the voice for me is so important, because I always felt it's the Lord.
Apart from religious life, what activities are of interest to you? I mean, your hobbies.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say, it was always I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It was always the Lord who has led me. He has led me. And it is that conviction that leads me on. So it's not my plan for the Archdiocese, but his plans. I'm sorry for this, but okay.
What are the hobbies you like?
You know, as I told you, in my younger age, I loved playing kabaddi, cricket. After I joined the seminary, I loved basketball. And during my regency, I was in St. Anthony's in Calcutta, where the coach, Boloida, we used to call him, he really trained me. And that's how I really became a good player, because of him, because of this coach. After that, really loved playing basketball. And even in Rome, where I stayed, I was one of the best players, thanks to Boloida, who trained. And no wonder why, even after when I go and shoot, take some shot, they still go in.
You're so tall. It helps.
From the D, when I shoot, they still go in, because you know it's in the system. And I still love playing, only that I can't run about, because now it's risky for me to run about. But I still love playing basketball. I don't watch cricket, but I see the results.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Jubilee year of hope. Where do you personally find hope and strength to carry on?
See, it's not where I find. One doesn't have to go in search of it. Just look around. Just look at the missionaries of charity. Look at their work. Look at those people. Look at their smiles. I went to the Little Sisters of the Poor. I saw those smiles of the people. That's the hope. If a person, a destitute, can smile, we have lots to learn from that. It's not having things that gives us hope. It's not having peace that gives us hope. It's in the midst of difficulties, challenges. You see people showing us the way. In times of natural calamities, in times of war. Look at the children. They give us hope. That desire to carry on, that gives us hope. So it's when we only think about problems, challenges, that's where we are going backwards. Look at those people who can still pull on in spite of the challenges. They give us hope. They show us the way. And I think that's where we have to look. But always put our trust in the Lord. It's He who leads us. He's the pilot. We are the passengers.
Your Grace, this was a very enlightening conversation which I had with you. I thank you for joining me today. I wish you great joy and fulfillment in your ordained ministry. And as the Archbishop, we will always hold you in our prayers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All that I need is your prayers. And I think with prayers, a lot of work can be done. So that's what gives me strength. Thank you so much.